Welcome to the Empower LEP podcast. I'm your host, Jana Parker, licensed educational psychologist, group practice owner, and mentor at Empower LEP. Today, I host Jaclyn Shasha. She has a business called Virtual Speech Solutions. She does contract work in charter schools in Southern California. She also does private practice work, and she's just absolutely loving her life as a private practitioner doing speech and language pathology. We have excellent conversations. It was great to have a like-minded professional on to talk about things that are really similar across our fields. And as always, I hope you enjoy this conversation just as much as I did. Welcome back to the Empower LEP podcast. I'm here with Jaclyn Shasha. Welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Well, Jaclyn is a speech and language pathologist who previously worked in the schools, and now she has a company called Virtual Speech Solutions. And I'm really, really excited to hear about how your transitional process went for you and what you're doing now. So maybe why don't we start with what Virtual Speech Solutions is, and then we'll go backwards.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me on today. I'm so excited to share about where my experiences have led me and, what harnessed, my enthusiasm to opening Virtual Speech Solutions. So to give you a little bit of a background on Virtual Speech Solutions, I am a contract company and a private practice. So right now, I'm in a few different charter schools in Southern California, and the contracts have enabled me to provide some therapists to the districts that are in need. So that's a newer side of the business. I'm very excited about it. I'm able to really hear what the need is for the specific district, whether they're seeking a particular therapist that specializes maybe in AAC or a certain area. And I can use not only people that I may have worked with in the past or, really go out and try to find the right fit. So that's part of Virtual Speech Solutions. And then the other side is private practice. So we do also see students, all ages actually. We also see adults for speech therapy, and the services are offered virtually, which I love. And those are the kind of two tiers of the business.
Awesome. I have questions about that. This episode is brought to you by the LEP Exam Mastery course that is now available on empowerlep.com. This course has taken me a long time to build because I have been getting information from all of the people who have taken the test since May 2023 who have donated study materials, guidance, feedback, all the things. I've done market research in the field to try to figure out, what people need to be studying. I have talked to people far and wide who have taken this test. I've talked to people who have passed. I've talked to people who have not passed. I've gained study materials. I have so much information packed into this new exam mastery program. You are not going to have to look anywhere else. And I really hope that with all of this information, you pass this exam. So if you are an aspiring LEP wanting to take the LEP exam and you are looking for materials to study and a course that takes you through step by step all the things you need to do to prepare for the exam, all of the pieces of the exam, we go through the whole BBS outline in this course. It's all there for you with tons and tons of resources. So again, go to empowerlep.com, go find the exam prep course, and let me know your thoughts. First is, so you have a team of people.
Small team.
Okay,
So I love to consider Virtual Speech Solutions speech pathology owned because it's me. I also am working. I'm still with clients. I'm still working with students in schools. I have my hands in all the pots. So I really love that I'm, a speech therapist owned small business.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. as a licensed educational psychologist owned practice, and I'm still working in it, and we still work with schools, and I have a small team, and we're multidisciplinary. So like I was telling you before we push record, I do have a speech and language pathologist who works with me, and I just, I really value still being able to do some multidisciplinary assessments. I like, kind of that, just being able to consult with a professional from a different field, whether or not we're doing an assessment together. And she sees kids for therapy in clinic. She also sees some kids virtually. But it just really rounds out our team. And I always felt like that in schools too, just how nice it was to have other professionals to consult with from different areas.
Have the whole picture. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you actually you go into the charter schools and then you see your personal clients virtually.
Yes.
Nice. And so you're still kind of in IEP land with the, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and when you say that sometimes you bring people in like who you've known who might specialize in AAC or different things, how are you finding these speech pathologists who are not like working full time already in a school? Because I feel like that's one of the really kind of hard things is similar to school psychologists, right? Like people are just like sucked into the school system, and it's really hard to find people who are not doing a full time job. Have you found that?
So I'll tell you what, I was really surprised. So just for an example, I flew just a few positions recently. So I was looking for a speech language pathology assistant, and I was also looking for a virtual speech pathologist. And her position would just be to oversee the SLPA. And so, interestingly enough, I think just through use of social media and getting, what my needs were out there, within a day, I had 40 speech pathologists emailing with interest in that position. I had,
Wow.
I
For the
decided
supervisor or for the
the
SLPA?
supervisor. Yeah.
Wow.
That I found was clearly a position that there's a lot of, desire for. I think a lot of speech pathologists like to have the opportunity where they're helping with supervision, just maybe providing virtual assessments, and overseeing. And so I, was really surprised. I mean, I thought this would be a great position, but I was very surprised to see just how highly desirable it was.
Yeah.
Um, so it was great because there were some really fantastic candidates for it. And then for the other position that I had for the speech pathology assistant, just happens to be somebody that I used to work with, so just word of mouth and
Yeah.
just I've been a speech pathologist now. Let's see, I graduated back in 2013 and then was a slip of myself before becoming a speech pathologist. So I've really been working in the field for a long time. And just through that, you just meet so many people. And I think it's exciting to have this opportunity now to maybe even bring on people that I used to work with and that I enjoyed working with. So um, that's also the other thing that I love about virtual speech solutions is I can really kind of cultivate my own work family and bring on people that I want to work with and that are fantastic.
Yeah, awesome. And so okay, so take me back to like 2013 and how did you start working and then kind of fast forward to as you were thinking like, you know what, I think maybe an exit is in my future.
Great question. Because if you would have asked me back in 2013 if I would have owned a speech practice, that would have not have been on my radar at all. I started out in the schools. I worked for a few years, and then ultimately knew that I wanted to work with adults and I wanted to work in the hospital setting. That always was interesting to me. And I wanted to make sure that my skills were very diverse across, all populations. And I felt that I needed to make that change early on in my career. So I worked in the schools and then I moved over to working with Kaiser Permanente, actually. And I worked in the hospital for almost 5 years. I also worked as a contractor in hospitals. So ultimately worked in the hospitals, went back to schools when I had myself young children. I decided to go back into schools. I was kind of looking to have a similar schedule as a mom, and that really kind of drew me back. So went back to the schools, but always kept working in the hospitals. Even as I was in the schools, I would some days, I would just pick up shifts on weekends, things like that, just to keep my skills up. And ultimately, I was working for a school, and it ended up being a virtual school, and I found that I loved it. I found that I really loved I loved providing services virtually. I loved providing, even my assessments. I found so many tools that helped me gather information. Um, and so I found that that was something I wanted to do. Well, I was kind of in between a few different schools, or looking into a few direct hire positions. And in this meantime, um, I had families reaching out, Jaclyn, we would love for you to offer, services to our child. And I always just said no, I don't do that. I don't take on clients or anything privately. But after some time, there were quite a few families asking, and I thought, well, why am I saying no? And so
Yeah.
I thought, well, I'll just do it. I'm just gonna do it. I have this little lull between these two positions. Maybe I'll just start doing it. Well, I ended up never signing a contract with another school. I ended up, and part of it's my personality, but I was like, if I'm gonna take on these clients, I'm gonna do it right.
Yeah.
So I did a little research. I wanted to make sure that I was HIPAA compliant. I wanted to make sure that, if I'm setting this up, that I'm protecting myself, as well as, you know, putting everything together ethically and accurately. So I took a little time to do that, but within, and when I say time, I mean, truly, it was probably a 2 to 3 week turnaround, where then all of a sudden here I am,
Yeah.
got my business license, did all the things, and started seeing clients.
Yeah.
So, and those clients are, still with me. I'm very grateful for them. They are they're the heart of my business. That's why I decided this is so fantastic. I loved that I can have full control over what I'm offering, the therapy that I'm providing, full autonomy over, just how I want to treat. And I loved it.
Yeah.
So that's what started it all.
Yeah. Awesome. And so how long has it been since you've been doing that?
So, and that's the even more wild thing. I'm coming up on my 1 year. So I'm
Awesome.
brand new, really. My 1 year anniversary is next month.
Mm.
Actually, almost a month to today. So it's October 20th. It's my 1 year anniversary.
Wow. How cool. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
have you looked back?
No, I am. I mean, it's wild that it's almost been a year. It's been a great year, and I just keep trying, pinching myself, like, why didn't why didn't I do this sooner? I'm so much happier. I feel so much more fulfilled in my job. Um, I can see this now for the long term, and I'm happy about it. And I'm very excited. I have a lot of goals, even just personally, now that I'm able to implement as a part of my work-life balance, certifications that, just are even helping me continue to grow as a speech pathologist.
Yeah.
I just, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Hmm. Yeah, speech pathology is definitely something where over the pandemic, I heard from speech pathologists that they had very little difficulty implementing their services virtually. Like actually were like, we don't have to wear a mask, like it, and they had a much easier time, I think, than the educators who were trying to teach online for the most part.
Yes, it was truly, I mean, it was absolutely a learning curve for all speech pathologists that were thrown into teletherapy.
Yeah.
I know for myself, I was like, I am not doing this. I'm not comfortable with this. I don't know how to do this. I didn't consider myself really tech savvy. So I was actually, probably one that was like, I don't think this is a road we should go down, but here we are. And I'm glad that I was wrong, because it's wonderful. And I feel that it's giving access to, therapy for families that otherwise may not be able to have it. And I
Yeah.
think that is so powerful. It's
Yeah.
one.
Well,
So
what kind of goals do you have as you move, past your 1 year anniversary and into the future? What are you thinking business wise for the growth of your practice?
I would love to expand. Um, I'm in the process right now of obtaining an NPA certification. And that is so that I can be, a nonprofit agency that is contracting with a lot of the schools. That will allow me to expand on that part.
Mhm.
And then I also want to grow the private practice side. Right now, I am private pay only. Um, I've had some discussions with Kaiser, possibly taking on insurance, but haven't yet.
Yeah.
I like things where they are right now, but I also do have a passion for seeing adults. And in California, if I want to service adults that are over the age of 65, I have to be credentialed with Medicare. So
Ah,
a piece that I'm looking into possibly expanding as well. Um, because I did always like that medical side
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I see things, you know, going in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. And this is kind of off topic, but I just this morning was trying to, it's like we don't take, we're private pay also. And my speech pathologist, like we provide a super bill.
Mhm.
And we had a family give their super bill to their insurance company for their speech session. And they said, oh, you needed to have a pre authorization for this. And I'm like, well, I'm not staffed to like go through that process, and that, but at the same time, I feel like, gosh, come on, insurance companies. Like, why are you going to make it so difficult for your, your client to get some speech services reimbursed? Like the kid is 5, he needs speech therapy, like, ah,
I feel the same way. There's been a few families that have reached out, even just post-stroke. But if they're over that age of 65, I cannot treat them. And that's so hard because I want to, and I want to be able to offer that support, but I am unable to. It's just one of those, rules that I cannot break. So I tell my families, I'm so sorry, I'm just not credentialed with that insurance. So
yeah.
unfortunately, I can't. But I do offer this a similar, to my families. I do offer the super bills, so that if they want to, submit me as an out of network provider, they're welcome to do that.
Mhm.
And I do have families that are doing that as
Yeah.
well.
It's
But you're
weird
right.
how,
Sometimes the insurances can be a little difficult, some more than others,
yeah.
wanting something specific to their super bill that has to be included. So I just try to work, the best that I can. I did end up getting some support in billing. I did hire somebody just to help with that piece. But I mean, I was doing all of that by myself at the very beginning.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a lot,
Yeah.
just trying to make sure that I'm, making sure that they can have that reimbursement if it's needed. So.
Right. Right. Wow. Well, so if you had some guidance or advice for people who are, whether they're speech pathologists or they're school psychologists or they're educators, because gosh, the private tutoring world right now is, I mean, I have education specialists on staff too doing intervention work. And I mean, we get calls for that more than anything, really.
Mhm.
um, what do I mean, people are, I think, pretty comfortable for a lot of good reasons in the schools. But what's maybe some guidance you would give for somebody thinking about stepping outside, whether it's a part-time or full-time, or what are some things that if you had, if you knew then what you know now, like what would you tell your previous self or people who are thinking about it?
As simple as this sounds, I would just say do it. If you have any, whether something's, tugging on you to try something new, see maybe those clients after school, um, do it.
Hmm.
I don't get stuck in what I call analysis paralysis. Don't stay there. Just if you want to do it. You will find the answers. You're not going to have all the answers when you start, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I also feel like a lot of speech pathologists that have reached out to me, they're like, I want to do it. I want to do it too. I'm tired of my position and I just want to do it. And all I could truly say to them is do it, because you may not ever fully feel ready, right? Um, Even when I expanded to the contracting side of my business, I wouldn't say at that moment I felt ready.
Yeah.
Okay, it was more like I have an opportunity.
Right.
If I don't act on this opportunity, I'm going to regret it.
Right.
So I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to do it. And that is, I think, the mentality that you have to have.
Yeah.
Just know your worth, know that you can provide those great services and that you can find the answers to making it happen,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think that's what I would say to people. It's just
Yeah.
do it. I mean, the one regret I have is that I didn't do this sooner. Why
Right.
didn't I?
Right.
But also in hindsight, I don't know that I would have been able to visualize this position either, right?
Hmm.
I was working in a school or I was working in the hospital. And when I look up, like, you know, um, if someone were to say, well, don't you want to be in like management, or would you want to, kind of move outside and do, that position, a coordinator or something like that? I'd say no. Well, because I want to still be a speech pathologist. I don't want
Right.
to change what I'm doing.
Right.
And so I just didn't even realize that what I'm doing right now, that this position existed. And
Yeah.
you,
I love what you're saying there. It's like we, as school psychologists and as speech pathologists, I think a lot of us really love that work that we're doing.
yes, that's why we got into this field, right?
Right. And then the weird thing is, in a school system, the only thing most of the time that you can really do that's still within your like you can move up in the school district, but you move into a position that doesn't use your clinical skills, right?
I would never truly want. Yes.
Right. So and I did that. I was a program specialist for a couple of years, and I was like, I'm learning a lot about consultation. I'm learning a lot about problem solving and about, like helping families through these very difficult times. So all of that experience made me even more prepared for what I was going to do once I was out and once I was then now I am being a boss and being a manager and being a leader. But I was I was not using my clinical skills in that role as
Right.
a psychologist. And I missed that, and I was still doing private practice on the side. And I realized that on Saturdays and Sundays, when I went to my office to test these kids, I was happier than all week that I was at the school district going to other people's IEP meetings and managing a budget. And yeah,
Absolutely.
I totally agree with you. And it's weird for me now because have I'm in a place where I'm spending, because my team is expanding and there are all of these moving pieces, and I'm finding that I'm doing a lot more leadership and management and doing the business side of things than being able to be a clinician. And when I code switch to do a case, it's harder for me to like put my mind back there. And so I'm really in this process of trying to build my team so that I like right now, I don't even have an admin because I got rid of one and I'm in the process of hiring. So I'm like doing all the front end and all the back end and everything. And I need someone else to be doing that so that I can get back to doing some more of the clinical work, because that's really what I love. I'm loving being a leader, but I also want to continue to work in my business as a practitioner, you know? That's the hard part, I think, for me, that balance.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Feel, and I'm sure you've been in business longer than me, so you probably had to, go through all those changes, growing and all of that. And like you said, it's going to put you into different positions within your company. But, um, right now I've been able to still continue being, primarily a treating speech pathologist. So,
Yep.
it's been wonderful. But
Yeah.
I can see how that, after the plans of growing could change that a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I think all the experience that I got through all of those years prepared me immensely for what I'm doing now. And I'm very glad that I had all of the experience that I had in schools and that I had in somebody else's private practice before I started my own. So I think there's something to be said for the experience. And that's so interesting as a speech pathologist. You can go work in like clinical settings and in medical practices, and that's really awesome that you went and did all of that also, because I think it helps you understand like a more well-rounded scope, I guess, of what's possible. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. Yes, I think that you're right. I think the experience does help you prepare to take on and understand more, as far as the different roles that we have in different settings. Um, but I absolutely wouldn't trade that journey for anything. It's been a lot of fun. I was definitely, as far as when I was directly working with the schools, I was feeling the burnout. Um, Caseloads are just really hard. And when I talk about how, when I was just providing that therapy on the private practice side, um, just, it just felt like this was why I became a speech pathologist. It was kind of that came back to that why.
Yep.
And I found that gosh, I do still love therapy. I just maybe don't love therapy if I'm having to provide it for the expectation of maybe, 90 students. That's not fun. That quickly leads to burnout. One thing I do like about being on the contract side, with working with schools is that we really can have more autonomy on how we are providing and how much we're providing. So we
Yeah.
can really say, look, we're going to take on this many students, or we're not going to exceed this many treatment hours.
Right.
Really put those boundaries, or maybe if there's, you know, um, somebody who's a mom and wants to, have the flexibility to pick up her kids from school and do the things that they want to do. They can really create a lot of their own schedule.
Yep.
I think also, again, just having that autonomy allows a better work-life balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I think it's a nice option for even speech pathologists that are feeling that burnout.
Yeah, for sure. And I was just thinking about how, like in private practice, if you do an evaluation, you're not held to like a seventh percentile on two measures, right? Like you're like, this kid's at the ninth percentile, and guess what? He needs therapy. This kid's at the 25th percentile, and guess what? He needs therapy. You don't have to be like, oh, sorry, not going to qualify.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have found, I mean, that for me as an educational psychologist is key. Like I could not do ed code anymore,
Mhm.
like I can't say you're eligible, you're not eligible because of what these rules say, right? Like you, you need help and that's okay. Like, let's help you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And families need to know that help exists. Not everything is, dictated by ed code.
Right.
So I think that's very important for families who are truly seeking help.
Yeah.
They need to know that the
Yeah.
help is there. It doesn't all apply to this specific rule.
Mm-hmm. I have one last question. It's just logistical. Do you have, like, do you answer your phone? How do you do your intakes? Like, how do you,
I
you do?
So I answer the phone. I do have a website, so typically I'll have families just go there because they can fill out a form. And likewise, I also get a lot of speech pathologists that are interested in employment. So same thing, they can go to the website and they can apply there. So I do have a lot of people go there first because that way I can it keeps track of everybody who's showing interest. But yes, that's me. I take the calls. Do all the follow up. So
Yeah.
that, mhm.
You may or may not be doing that for long.
Yes, true, true.
Oh, well, Jaclyn, it was so wonderful talking to you. Thank you for being the first speech and language pathologist that I've had on the show. And yeah, but I think we're very, oh yeah, well, we're like-minded. We're like doing the same kind of thing. And we all are, potential referral partners for each other too, right? I mean, if we have families who need to get speech therapy and they're a good candidate for virtual sessions and you're in California and we're in California, what's nice is it doesn't matter where in California you are, you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I truly appreciate you having me on.
Thank you for listening to the Empower LEP podcast. Episodes can be found at empowerlep.com. If you liked what you heard, please leave a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you have any questions for me, don't hesitate to connect. I would love to learn more. I can be found at jana@empowerlep.com.